for a fact I'm speaking to only people that are watching the recording. So, hello, people that are watching this recording. It's good to see you. I'm Derek. I'm the community steward at East Denver and SporkDAO, and I'm joined today by Russell Castangaro, who is our entrepreneur in residence and head steward of the Bufficorn Ventures aspect of SporkDAO, which is not very well understood. It's this like mysterious piece that brings all the community and Spork tokenomics together, and I think we're gonna explain it better now. Oh, we're already joined by Brian Childers. What's up, Brian? Brian is
Oh
a
my gosh,
huge
our
whale and
first
giant
viewer.
community member. It's good to have you, Brian. Got your friend request recently.
Hey there.
So, I'm looking forward to this conversation because basically I'm going to pepper Russell with a bunch of questions about how Bufficorn Ventures works. Because as I said a moment ago, it's pretty opaque, and our goal here is to make it transparent. So, beginning at the beginning, Russell, why are you a part of the team? And maybe you could reference your background there and your shirt along the way.
Oh yeah, my shirt. This is from Colorado Jam. This one was actually made like 2 years ago, I think, for the initial partnership that we had with SporkDAO and with the state of Colorado. And I'll get to that in a second. So my role is the entrepreneur in residence and an incubator steward for Bufficorn Ventures and SporkDAO. And I'll give you a little history of me first so that you know why it is I'm in this. I have been in technology for a lot longer than I'd like to admit. In fact, the first US based credit card service that had a website where you could actually look at your bill online and pay your bill and that kind of stuff was mine. I actually worked on the AT&T Universal Card Services website in the 90s. So we were the first ones that actually pulled stuff out of a mainframe, displayed so you could look. So I got into e-commerce really, or before e-commerce really even existed. At the time, I think eBay was still taking mail order payments, money orders to ship you stuff. So this was I think it's like several million years in internet time long ago. So I started
For
there, but I
sure.
loved e-commerce. Went on to do a bunch of traveling around and cool projects for Sun Microsystems and Oracle and Intel, and ended up in Hawaii, where I uh, um, where I ended up starting a company doing international consulting, and that was great and everything. But I really liked commerce best because it was this transactional thing. You knew how you could do it, and I got into my company, Hawaii Information Consortium, in the 16 years that I ran it. We had the contract to do all the electronic government and electronic payments in the state of Hawaii. So if you wanted to go register your business, if you wanted to reserve a camping permit, you wanted to order yours or as many people tried Barack Obama's birth certificates, all those went through our systems, and it was great. We processed like 2 billion in payments a year. But this weird thing happened. Hawaii was the first state to accept to have legal dispensaries that was done from the legislature. And so it was a $10,000 payment to get a license, and nobody had bank accounts. So to apply, you had to pay 10,000 bucks to the state,
Like
and
cash,
well, there was no way
money
to do it.
order.
You could write a
Okay.
check, but many of them didn't have a check, right?
Uh huh.
So what I did is I did a bunch of research, and I found out there was this thing called Bitcoin. This was in 2014. This thing called Bitcoin that we could accept, and I had even convinced the CTO of the state or the CIO of the state to accept it. And then, lo and behold, the legislature came back and said that they had to pay with a paper check because they didn't want people to bounce their checks or something. So that was dashed. But I was already like hooked into crypto. And so 2 years later, I ended up leaving and starting a payments company called WampPay, which was a non-custodial Bitcoin payments platform. Ended up about a year later moving to Colorado, and went through the 2017 downturn into the 2019 downturn, and basically I put Wampay to the side and started as the director of digital transformation for the state of Colorado. And my focus was digital identity. So in Colorado, we have this thing called My Colorado, and it's the state. We're the first digital driver's license that you can use. Because of the features that we added to it, it got up to 1 million users. So there's over 1 million people in Colorado with a population of 4 million using My Colorado. So the idea behind My Colorado was that we tried to do all these different things in blockchain, but it all came down to KYC and knowing who you're working with and that kind of stuff. So we were trying to do licensing systems and land title systems and payment systems, and it all came down to who is it that you're trying to do business with, and so digital ID sponsored by the state is kind of like not really a Trojan horse, but the first step that you need, because once you've done digital ID on a wallet, moving to sovereign identity is not such a big change. And so got into that. That was really successful. Finished it, and then after working with ETH Denver since the beginning and working from the state side with ETH Denver for 2 years, I talked to John Powler, the founder, and said, "Hey, you need somebody to run BV because that's what I would like to do. I've had my own startups. I've run large businesses. I've raised funds. I've worked in government, and so that is what I'm doing." So this year, we kicked off Bufficorn Ventures with from ETH Denver, and we started somewhere around April or May. I started in May with SportDAO, and we basically raised money to just see what kind of impact we could make for the SportDAO community. I mean, if you look back at the history of ETH Denver, you've got these great teams like 1inch and Aave and Moloch DAO, and there are quite a few that went absolutely bonkers great. And they did that without much in the way of help from the community, right? They came out of a hackathon, they did something, they made an announcement, and then it was all on them. So it's what I call the pool's open. Like, okay, pool's open now. You're out there, go fend for yourselves.
Mm.
And so the whole thesis behind Bufficorn Ventures is not only can we get access to the best alpha in the world that comes out of ETH Denver, but we can make it so they're a lot more likely to be successful. And even if they're not successful, we can make sure there's a path for them to contribute to the SportDAO community. And that's really what it's all about, activating those early ones. And we have our share, a fair share of veteran founders who have come out of exits too, and they don't need quite as much hand holding, of course, as two guys with two computers and a good idea that came out of a hackathon. However, them being a part of the SportDAO community and them being a part of Bufficorn Ventures is really exciting. I'm super excited about the portfolio companies that we have. We're able to bring on 14 portfolio companies, and that's quite a bit with only $1.4 million in funds that we raised. So our founder, our founders, our LPs, our limited partners are great to work with. Our companies themselves, the portfolio companies, are freaking fantastic, and I can't be any more excited about them, except when I think about what we're going to be able to do next. That was
I
grand.
Yeah, no, you you sprinted.
Jeez.
Russell, I could leave. I
I can sell some ShamWows.
oh gosh, it's yeah, it makes more sense in hindsight how you got where you are, although that does sound like a very interesting and winding path to try to get, for example, I love the beat of the story that's like, yeah, and then Hawaii's first dispensaries needed to spend 10K, but they didn't have checking accounts, so I tried to get the government to accept Bitcoin from the dispensaries. You know?
Well, what's crazy is that they agreed to, they agreed to do it, and then the legislature came in. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. So
Crypto
since
shrimp is awesome, by the way.
yeah,
they're giving us some great comments there.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Hey, what's up, Crypto Shrimp? Nice to meet you. Crypto Shrimp PhD. That's Dr.
PhD,
Crypto Shrimp to
Dr. Crypto
you.
Shrimp, you and me.
I didn't go to 6 years of higher education, so you can call me Crypto Shrimp, okay?
Yeah,
Mr. Crypto Shrimp.
I stand
Uh,
corrected.
yeah. So we have an ambitious idea here. Speaking of ambitious ideas, maybe we could talk about an example or two of companies that we, or like organizations, projects that we've spoken to, and take like a half step back. So let's start at whatever month you want to call it, around March, April, May of last year, as we were reaching out to teams that had come out of ETH Denver 2022 and beginning to have conversations like, hey, I mean, if you read between the lines on what Russell said a moment ago, 1inch, for example, came out of ETH Denver, and then without any formal help from the community, turned into what was worth at one point last year $500 million. And so 1% equity in that would have been worth $5 million, which is in the ballpark of the entire operating budget for ETH Denver. So there was a real like really good for them that they found such success after ETH Denver, huh? And that that sort of was a fire under our asses to like help create not an extractive model like a familiar VC model, but some kind of positive sum experiment where we could bring together people with the money, people with the ideas and the execution, and the community more broadly in a way that like sets up the game theory so they like want to play with each other. So what's an example of a project that we invested in early on, that especially when we might have like an update, sort of the like how they've been doing?
Sure. Well, I mean, a great one to talk about is Tavern Keeper, right? Tavern Keeper was they came up with a cool idea to do sort of a choose your own adventure NFT based incentives to get people to onboard themselves onto Discord. And if you know anything about how like onboarding in a company or an organization or even like giving people help when they're joining, it's really hard to do and it's very labor intensive, and it's I think universally despised as like a horrible experience. It's a great surprise when you're onboarded in a way that makes you feel like valued as a human being. A lot of times, like if you get a new job, right, you get the worst of the company in those first 3 days when you're onboarding, and you see it's like, let's air our dirty laundry at first.
Mm-hmm.
So Tavern Keeper, not only were they one of our first investments, we were we were the only investor that went in them. So super alpha, and we were able to bring them in. They're working with us for ETH Denver. So when you onboard onto our Discord server, you can get quests and sort of learn things about the memes and the ecosystem and the event itself. I think Bankless is using them, and we're using them for Bufficorn Ventures. In our Discord, we're going to be having them doing our onboarding for new investors. So what they're doing is really high value, really exciting stuff. It's still early stage. I mean, I think they're still, you'd consider them like pre-seed stage for the next one. We were more like friends and family, but they're doing an amazing job. And what amazes me with them is like I get reports from them every week or 10 days where they show me the burn down chart. They are so conscientious about exactly how much they're spending and the value that they're getting out of our investment. It's great, and that's a great one. Definitely try the Tavern Keeper quests. They're very cool, and they're doing some cool AI stuff. I'm super excited about them.
That's yeah. I would love to allude to that in more detail, but first, yeah, like the basic premise is along the lines of a Discord bot where you would write out copy, like text, for a quest one slide at a time. And as somebody like a Discord admin, a community manager role here in Web3, you've got this problem Russell mentioned. People show up and they're confused, they're lost, and they need like an orientation, like a welcoming. Who's here? Where do I talk about what and in what way? And so to try to solve that very challenging problem in Web3 of like cultural and logistical onboarding, they do quests and they're fun. Like they're fun to participate in. Like they're designed well in a like it has a nice rhythm to it. It's not like CAPTCHA where you just like click green check mark, get access to 100 channels, get overwhelmed, leave. That's like the most common onboarding flow in Web3. So if you want to go try it out,
Is the
we are
creature
using it.
one? Is the mythical creatures one still on there?
Yeah, it should be. And I
I
also
love
wanted to
that.
say the Meet the
I love
Stewards
that.
one is up there if you want to
Yeah.
get to know a little alpha on Russell or myself. We have like basically little bios up.
Yeah.
There are a lot of Tavern Keeper quests that we haven't announced because as an organization, I mean, I'm sorry if I'm saying the thing you're not supposed to say, but our problem continues to be that we're so much better at executing than communicating. Like we had the LCA framework like existing in Colorado through our support, and then Spork DAO incorporated, and then the Spork token launched and airdropped retroactively, and then Bufficorn Ventures exists now and is investing in portfolio companies like Tavern Keeper. And most people don't know any of these pieces. Even people that love ETH Denver are like, what's a Bufficorn Ventures? What's a Spork? Why do I care? And so it's unfathomable to me that like in a world so full of hype like our industry is, that's like, oh, roadmap, it's going to be great later. We're like, we're already doing it, but we're so bad at telling people we're doing it. But that's why we're here.
Yeah, and also like Bufficorn Ventures is almost as much alpha as any of our startups. So we didn't really want to have too big of an exposure. We did where I think we're launching the website this week. So for Bufficorn Ventures, so we have kept it pretty small because we wanted to learn a whole lot from this first series, uh, so that we could then, you know, really execute in an even better and more efficient way for the next series that we have.
Yeah, we'll call it stealth
Another,
mode.
yeah, exactly. We've definitely been operating sort of in stealth mode. The one other I really want to mention another one of our portfolio companies, which is WeLook.
Wait.
And
Before you move on to WeLook,
okay,
I have a question from RefoJeb. Excuse me if that's completely wrong. And then I want to close the loop on Tavern Keeper. But
okay,
if somebody wanted
yeah.
to approach you and talk about their project and see whether it'd be a good fit, we'll talk about what is a good fit in a moment, like what's our investment philosophy. But if they wanted to get in touch, what's like the most natural way?
So we are going to be having a pitch contest at ETH Denver to let new Bufficorn Ventures teams in. However, can I put a link into here? Is this
Yeah,
would
if you
this
just
be
tell me, I'm,
possible?
I'm sort of writing these captions as we go.
So the actual link is ethden.page.link/apply. And that will get you the application form to apply to become a Bufficorn Ventures portfolio company. There's going to be another one for the pitch contest that we're having in ETH Denver, which will also get you registered. So should I give you that one, or should I give you the other one?
We'll
That,
start here because I think that's what this person would like now. Let's see how I did. Bada boom. That sentence, it just hangs. It needs an emoji or a period or an exclamation point or something.
I think it's good. I
That's
think
fine.
we're not too particular on
Yeah, good enough's good enough. I,
punctuation
uh,
is
I,
optional.
I would like to say regarding Tavern Keeper before we move on to WeLook that you alluded to their being interested in trying out AI for folks that have not been a part of a startup, which I would go ahead and say most of us haven't. It's an interesting process, to the best of my understanding, of having an idea but kind of trying to find what they call product market fit. Like there's a lot of what they call pivoting, where you're like, we think we're this. Nobody really wants that, but we built this thing that we realize might be useful over here. And you might end up with a completely different thing at a superficial level along the way as you zigzag. So one of the things they're going to try in the context of this Discord QuestBot thing, they found the pain point as they were talking to community stewards like me. We don't want to have to write the quests. That's a huge time consuming thing to just sit there and do creative writing, like panel by panel by panel. Oh my God, it's like sends tingles up my spine. I don't want to do that. I don't like writing emails or tweets or anything like that. So they're trying to find a way to use AI, like think ChatGPT, to be able to read either docs that already exist or like a website for a project or whatever kind of source material you give it, and then automatically generate the text for the quests and split it up into panels. And when they said that they were looking into figuring that out, I was like, oh my God, 2023 is crazy. I can't believe these are, and you're just like two people that attended ETH Denver. What's your life? Like they are living a truly crazy life right
They
now.
are. They are. Jonathan even has like a gym in his office that he just like when he's just can go pump out like 6 reps and then come
Uh
and
huh.
code.
Okay. So before we move on to WeLook, OX Prado is asking, is it only for Colorado-based ventures?
What a
What's the
good
scope?
question. What a good question. So it's not based. You have to have like you have to be incorporated in the United States or in like Europe, but other than that, there's not a limitation on your company. Basically, I can give you the bulleted list of things that we do. We try to try to support the teams who have a potential to positively impact the Web3 landscape, um, to innovate business and to contribute to Web3 Commons. And normally we give between $25,000 and $150,000 for somewhere between 2 and 6% interest in our portfolio companies. And the deal is that you as a team have to agree to work on this project for between 6 and 12 months, depending on the funding level, and have your next phase ready to be launched at ETH Denver. That doesn't mean that you're trying to get new funding, or it just means like in case of Tavern Keeper, we want to get them 150,000 customers. That's going to be theirs. We we try to make sure also it's really easy when you're doing a startup to make really small mistakes that cost you a whole lot later on. And so we really want to help do that. For instance, things like intellectual property, we don't think about intellectual property as being that big of a deal in the Web3 world, but it is. So you've worked 9 months to get your business going and have a website and everything. You find out somebody else has a copyright or a trademark on your business name, or you could have used a patent to protect yourself so that somebody else couldn't go do something. So those kinds of things. We also like have great teams like which came out of Nifty Chess, um, which was another hackathon thing from gosh I think 2 years ago, and they're working to onboard people from Web 2 to Web 3. All of our startups, all of our portfolio companies can use that kind of thing. So there's a lot of we have this Telegram channel where everybody's talking to each other, and there's a lot of synergy there, as well as when there's something they just need to know. We've got access to the best and brightest minds in the industry through the SporkDAO community. So the idea is that we can improve their chances of being successful significantly by working with them.
And at what, I haven't forgotten about WeLook. At what stage do we invest? And can you actually explain what these are for folks that have no idea how the whole fundraising thing works?
Yeah, so we focus on early alpha, and that's to say most of the time we are pre-seed, first money in. We don't have to be the first money in, and it doesn't have to be pre-seed, but in most cases, we think we can do more with our money super early than trying to get on a deal with that's got that's a Series A or Series B. We probably wouldn't be a big enough player to really make a significant deal in that. So what we want to do is help a very early stage, meaning coming out of the hackathon, like
3 days old.
like two chicks that just coded this and now they're ready to make a company that does it all. Like we want to help them, or and also like if you've already done a friends and family deal or you've already done some initial stuff, that kind of thing. But basically we're playing in the pre-seed area. And sometimes we do like a seed. Also, we've got like companies like Venture Punks, which they just went out to the people who they knew, the community that they liked, to bring them in. They didn't really need a whole lot of money, but they wanted to bring in more of the community. Um, as I was saying, it's like we pay between 25K and 150, and I'd say that we like the smaller investments. So I really like the $50,000 investment level, um, because it's so early. And if you're spending a lot of money on infrastructure or something, you're doing spending a lot of money on software, and you're that early stage of a company, you're probably doing something wrong, or you've made some choices that aren't the best, to burn through all that instead of paying for your salaries to make sure you just keep on going. We have made, I think we made it 200,000, may have made a $200,000 investment, but my preference is to make those smaller ones that are more impactful for the earlier teams. And we also don't sort of chase after, like in the past, DeFi hasn't really had too many problems, DeFi projects getting money. We don't need to compete in that space. There's plenty of other vendor and plenty of other places that are going to fund those kinds of projects. So if it's mostly extractive, or doing something that's not particularly novel, we're probably not going to be really interested in doing it, unless it brings real value. And my favorite thing to do is to bring Web 2 people into the Web 3 world without them knowing it. Right? Is to onboard them, without onboarding them, and doing it with pleasure. And anytime that you've got an idea that's going to be doing that, I definitely want to talk to you about it.
Let's talk about WeLook then, and then maybe we can circle back and speak in a little more detail about what makes an ideal candidate, like what our thesis is, just to elaborate on your previous point. But I'll set the table. I mean, had you used WeLook much before the MCon poker tournament? That felt like the first time I got to use it with my own hands.
No, but my big thing was identity before, and I was like, why everybody's talking about NFTs for IRL token gating, and nobody was doing it.
Right. It was a glaringly large pain point for the entire
Yeah,
NFT aspect of the industry, where people were like, I want to go to a happy hour and prove I own the NFT. And
yeah,
all the steps from like whether or not you have it on your phone and you're in a public event with crypto people, there's an OPSEC issue there, much less the actual verification itself. There's nothing out there that was competing with a simple like Eventbrite or airplane ticket, like scan the thing, boop, move
right.
on.
Right. And so I talked to Angelo, who's the founder there, and I was like, look, if you make this work for us for the MCon events that we're doing, and we did a Bufficorn Biddle Brigade cocktail hour that was free for BBB holders, and then we had the poker tournament. And so I was like, okay, if you can do this with no announcements to tell people how to set it up beforehand and get people in, and we can do a scan, and it automatically checks to whether they have it. And we did a quick run through the day before. There was a party at the Opolis founder John Paller's house. We did it there too, and it worked so damn well. I mean, it was still people who didn't know they had to put their wallet onto Wheel. They had to go to WeLook and connect it with Wallet Connect. But then it was done, and we had probably, I think we sold 16 BBBs that day, with people just waiting in line to go to come in for free, which I thought was pretty cool. But
Yeah.
it worked, and you were there. You were using
No,
it.
yeah, I'll tell you how well it worked. I was standing there. You and I sort of were taking shifts up at the top of the staircase as people were coming up, and we were doing the bouncer thing, like, show us your Bufficorn. And people were like, how do I do that? Well, this is Web3. We don't know. And I'm like, I like point to the wall where we like printed out a QR code
Yeah,
so they could open up the website. And when you connect your wallet, like there's so many different flows. Part of the beauty of WeLook is that it can let you start with either just an email address, like an OAuth, or you can do your wallet, or regardless of which one you started with, you can connect them. So like, let's say you're a hyper OPSEC secure person. You could create your WeLook profile, connect your wallet and your email on your desktop, and then go on your phone and log in with your email, and then go to an event, and it would have all the information, even though you had never loaded like MetaMask or whatever on your phone.
yeah.
So pretty cool. So we're standing there. They whip up their WeLook, and basically there's a QR code icon so that I can scan just their entire wallet. And then on our side, we had a custom logic set up over on our like scanner device, and it was simply checking for this wallet I'm about to scan. Go ping the NFT contract Bufficorn Biddle Brigade and see whether they currently own one or more. So we scan it, and then in real time, me, the person holding the phone that's doing the scanning, my phone just flashes green and it's like, yep, or it flashes red, like, nope, they're trying to trick you. Simple as that. And like,
Yeah.
we're fools. We set that up in a day and it worked very well. So we were like, wow, you have our attention, we look.
Yeah. And so then we said, okay, we're in, right? And then they did a Shelling Point at DevCon, which went, I think, really, really well. And now they're doing the ticketing for ETH Denver. So everybody's going to have a chance, and we're going to do a bunch of token gated events inside of ETH Denver. So you'll have passes that'll get you into certain areas. We're going to use their WeLook card, like really, really cool things coming out of there. So I'm very, very excited about what's happening. I mean, I would love what I'd really love to see is for them to put, Ticketmaster out of business. I'll still never forgive them what they did to Eddie Vedder, Ticketmaster, and all of us every time we buy a ticket and spend like $60 in fees on top of the ticket price. So um, we're coming after Ticketmaster, man.
Yeah, we're going to get you. Um, yeah, we are doing all of the tickets for ETH Denver, which is free to attend and always will be. This year, all you got to do to get that free ticket is agree to be a SporkDAO member, which might sound intimidating and like it's full of legalese you might want to avoid. But the long and short of it is all you got to do is show up, check in, and there's no annual fee. There's no minimum requirement. You don't have to attend any kind of stakeholder meeting or anything. You're just in.
You do have to stake one spork though.
You
So
have to
when we
stake a spork to be.
So when you get in, the sort of the thing that you do that memorializes your membership is that when you get in the door, we'll have a new staking app that you'll then stake at least one spork. You don't have to stake more than that, but
My
you'll stake
eye,
at least
yeah.
one.
My eyes are rolling back in my head because I know from ticketing already that we err on the ambitious side, right? We're like, let's do it. We're gonna do NFT tickets only through a new project that is one of our venture portfolio companies. We don't want to do Eventbrite, and that all makes sense. And we have hundreds of support tickets that are like, wow, we looks confusing me. So it's like a we're still early kind of thing. And these are like growing pains that I'm down for because we're doing things that aren't being done. Like we're the only community-owned event in Web3, if not any industry. We're a cooperative that's free to join for an event that's free to attend. And also, if any of our portfolio companies does well, everyone who comes to the event and becomes a member would financially benefit. Like,
That's something I didn't talk about was the whole, the whole, um, I guess, thesis behind Bufficorn Ventures that first of all, we're not trying to be extractive for the founders, but we really have kind of a refi approach to everything in that because we're so tied at the hip to SporkDAO, the investors do get a preferential return, but then all co-op members who stake Spork can share in the profits that come out of the SporkDAO. So one thing is our DAO, SporkDAO, is a co-op, right? And in a co-op, as a member of that co-op, you can share in the profits that the co-op makes. And so half the profits that come out of Bufficorn Ventures go into the Spork DAO and can get distributed to everybody based on how much Spork they hold. So the more and the longer you hold your Spork, what greater percentage of a year you hold your Spork, the more of it that you'll be getting.
so maybe this is a good point to come back to now that we've introduced a couple examples. We've talked about how it started. Let's zoom in on where we are today. For folks that are thinking, okay, this sounds pretty cool. I'd like to be a part of this experiment. I'm working on a project. There was actually a quick question from Adafran here. Has there any example of a solo founder that we've invested in, or is that something we might be open to?
No, we try. A solo founder is just not something that we feel like we can do at this point. We have found a couple of different solo founders that we liked, and had actually said that. And one of them actually got a partner and came back to us. And it's just a little too risky for basically our LPs won't go for it.
Hmm.
And I understand why. It is the most extreme version of putting all your eggs in one basket. So I definitely understand why our LPs are very resistant to do that.
Okay. But what are our LPs excited about? What makes an ideal fit for our investment philosophy?
So number one, um, onboarding the other 99% to Web3. Right. So if you're coming to me and saying, hey, we're really excited about this because it can serve all of, all of Dowdom, right? Or all of Web3 really well, I'll listen to you, but I won't be super excited about it because we have a pretty small potential market. If you're going to tell me, oh, this is all about enhancing the experience and improving the services that everyone gets, not just people who are already into Web3, that's where it wins. And you look at there's so many great opportunities out there really around NFTs right now with Budweiser and Gucci, and all these the high end brands are doing it, the museums are doing it. How do you onboard people from where they are now in a way that doesn't put them through like wallet mania, as many of us, everybody, their experience with wallets, no matter how many wallets you have, are generally poor. So if you have somebody that can onboard normies to using the technology without them actually having to know their technology, gosh, this is like a TikTok theme. How can I use Web3 without you knowing that I'm using Web3 or something like that? But that is the most exciting thing, right? On top of that, I think identity is another one of those places that is really interesting, and places where identity can be both leveraged, like Web3 identity can move into the KYC space, know your customer space. Um, there are a lot of bumps in that road, like because making sure that the courts will recognize a digital ID, or digital verification, or making it so that a bank can do KYC to give you a bank account without you having to go in. Um, there are a lot of opportunities there. It's not super easy. We've talked to quite a few companies that are trying to do that, and it's hard to position yourself so that it's not an easy thing to do. And then the other place is other place we're really interested in is NFTs that are not for investment, right? NFTs that are not trying to extract a whole lot of money or from anyone. What they're to do is to enhance an experience. So, like whether it's creating NFTs for artists who just want to give digital collectibles to people. If you go and visit like a typical art studio, the way art studios make money, most of them, is not by selling big pieces of art. It's by selling little prints, right? And the art studio gets a big chunk of that. The artist gets a smaller chunk of that. Letting artists sell digital prints, digital collectibles in the form of NFTs, that's something that can mean a lot to a lot of people and can expand the reach of art all over the place. So those kinds of things that are brand related, art related, but not kind of art in like what you're going to see in some huge art auction for $1 million, art that is accessible to everyone. And just think about the way that most artists share nowadays. You take a picture, you post it up on Twitter or some social media, and it's all in a vacuum, right? So if you can do something that not only shares the image, but shares the artist's information, shares if it's up physical, if it's in a physical place, or even if it's ephemeral, like it's something like chalk art, it's gone in 3 days because it rains. You know, you can make those much more permanent by issuing NFT digital collectibles. And I would caveat that by saying I do not include the Trump NFTs in that too.
Yeah, that's a rabbit hole. But if folks don't know, just go check it out. It's comical in terms of execution, which I guess you
They're
could
going
say
to get
about us.
sued. They're going to get totally sued for reusing those photos
It's not
without
great.
any. It's a joy to watch.
So a couple questions or comments that came up as you were explaining that. Just to clarify, Brian was asking, so you're talking about the kinds of NFTs, maybe even artistic ones, but not with the intention of them being a store of value. They're being a secondary market where you're buying it to sell it
That's
later.
right.
Okay.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you're not like really hot on like using tokens as a form of investment. If if you've got a business around that, we're probably going to steer clear of that, because there's so many other places that we can spend our money that I think are more valuable for the community at large. That's not to say we would never do it, but it would take a lot of persuasion.
So speaking of persuading the community at large, I would love to steer us toward how, we've talked about 2 out of 3 of the stakeholders in our triangle. We've talked about Spork DAO, the money, Bufficorn Ventures, the LPs. We've talked about projects that we're partnering with and getting that first money in the door pre-seed relationship with so we can support them. And part of that support is not only being able to talk to you, being able to talk to other projects in the Telegram, and being able to ask you for connections to like our network. Because I mean, our network includes Vitalik wearing the Bufficorn suit on stage. It's a pretty big network. So there's the third piece of the triangle, which is the community, everyone watching this, everyone listening. What role does your average person who might, for example, attend ETH Denver for the first time or second time this coming February and checks in and may or may not be aware they get spork for doing that, may or may not know anything about staking, what would you say to them so they could begin to wrap their head around what part they play in this and what they have to offer and what they have to look forward to?
Yeah, I think we talk a lot about our community, our Sporked Out community, and I think there's no place that you get a better sense of the community than at ETH Denver, the event. By the time you've had 3 or 4 days of ETH Denver, it's like the anti Las Vegas. You are so pumped up on adrenaline and excitement and about how you're going to be able to change the world by working with it. It's an amazing thing. And where what you then need to sort of relax and say, okay, what does this mean? Well, this means that the whole idea behind SporkDAO is that it's based on patronage. So by attending ETH Denver, that is your first point of patronage, right? Staking that spork is another point of patronage that you're doing. Taking part in the Discord, that's another point. Working on projects. We had our staking app was worked on by people who actually accepted spork for that work. Pitching a startup, trying to be part of the hackathon, um, hosting a podcast, all these kinds of different interactions that you can do. Um, Voting on things. We're going to be kicking off actual membership and voting at ETH Denver as well. So you'll be able to actually vote and say what you want. We'll be able to vote on board members and things like that after ETH Denver. So there's a whole lot you can do. And then you can think about what happens in a co-op that's a little different than just what our normal attitude towards community is, right? As a co-op, what we are is a community that actually has decided to actively combine our interests together. So we're all working together in one way. So you've got ETH Denver, and maybe there'll be more ETH events that SporkDAO puts on, right? That's part of the eventual plan one day, right? You've got Bufficorn Ventures. You've got a project that comes out of it, Bufficorn Biddle Brigade, right? You've got all these little side projects that you can contribute to in some way. The value that those come and bring back to SporkDAO can then be distributed to you as a distribution of profits because you are a contributing member, and not that you've contributed money or something like, but you've contributed via patronage. And that is what it's really all about, is participating in the community and knowing that because you're doing that, the community is now looking out for you, um, even to the extent where it's sharing its profits with you. So it's better than Tony Robbins, session. You leave feeling great. You can walk on. You can walk on fire. But
Yeah.
now you also have a community of people you can depend on. You can work with, and you even have a way of in the future like working together because we're stronger together, and getting more money. And as we're successful, sharing that success across the whole DAO, the whole co-op.
Yeah, I, I part of why I'm excited to be a part of this experiment team community is our values show up in all the little things we've talked about today. We care about educating and empowering people so they can biddle. We care first and foremost about biddling and creating things with our own hands. It's like none of us are really like token traders or NFT flippers. Like maybe on the side we might dabble with it, but what we're here to do is create things and create things intentionally, like create digital ID or create things that are going to onboard folks in the Web 2, in other words, normies, in other words, everyone, to benefit their lives in real ways. Like your Colorado Jam shirt, just to harken back to what that has all been about. It's like, let's create projects that actually benefit human beings in Colorado. Let's
Right.
like improve archaic government software systems. It's a low bar to improve a government software system. So I just appreciate that, we sort of have this two-pronged, and it's not like one and then the other, but like this circular relationship where we're all helping each other learn and sharpening our skills and coming together to like try out a new bounty, go to a workshop, ask somebody for help, look for a connection. And then from that place of empowerment and education, go do some stuff, go try some stuff out and like be excited about it and share it. Like, yo, I'm trying out a cabin DAO. Does anyone want to go be a part of my cabin DAO? And people are like, yeah, I would love to go live with you in a cabin. That's a crazy idea. So I really like this sort of like experimental, fun, but educational play we do with each other where it's like, yeah, I mean, I know some stuff, you know some stuff. Let's see what we can do.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that nails it right there. I kept on thinking of Cabin in the Woods, like Cabin Down. Now it just turns into Cabin in the Woods. Have you ever seen that
The
movie?
horror movie?
Yeah.
It's one of my favorites. The horror comedy genre is a good one.
Yeah, that was a good one. But yeah, the experience that everyone should get is one that's very multivalent. Multivalent is one of those descriptions of how people dream. There are many layers and many meanings to them, right? But you come to ETH Denver, and I think you think didn't you post it today? Like 60 to 70% of the applicants are newbies coming to ETH Denver, right?
I'm thinking of a different stat, which is that an alarming number of people that apply also claim to be experts.
Oh,
So it's very like I mean
newbie
it kind of,
experts.
it's a pie chart. It splits up. We have a
Yeah.
lot of newbies. We have a lot of intermediates. We have a lot of experts.
But the point is that like it's a multivalent experience because you come in and you experience these memes and the parties are epic and you get the swag that is to die for. And then you start talking to people and you meet people, which God knows we need more ways to meet people with common interests. You get to meet people, and then you learn things from all the different talks that come out of this. You learn so much, and your eyes are opened into just what kind of agency you can have in your world, right? You make changes. These guys that we've invested in that came out of a hackathon are total brave badasses, right? They're brave. And I remember from was it 3 or 4 years ago when I was judging, there was this team called Two's Complement. They've gone on to do like pretty cool things in consulting and everything, but they had a great team. They were fearless. They came in, said, "We're going to try and do this," and they did what whatever they tried to do, they just executed it as well as they could in the short period of time that they had, which is what you have to do in a hackathon. And they inspired themselves as well as inspiring everyone else that saw them accept their awards. You know, and you see that kind of thing, and then you see the successes that happen, and it really is like a sort of a bulwark against the negativity that's going around the industry right now in the Web3 and crypto world. all the stuff with C5 failing and somehow then pinning it on us, is very, very interesting. But you will understand that much, much more after going to ETH Denver and after seeing just how many people are getting shit done and doing cool things. And it's not just, you sitting and doing something for yourself. It's working with a team, working with other people, doing bounties, getting the confidence that you need to say, I'm going to try something big. And it's a freaking amazing experience. As a previous founder of a couple different startups, and as somebody who was stupid enough to think he could get the state of Colorado to do digital ID and all the different things, I can tell you there's nothing that makes you feel better about the world and yourself than when you try to do something big, even if it doesn't work. Knowing that you tried it is an amazing, liberating feeling.
For folks that are thinking, like, that's galvanizing, that's enrolling, that's inspiring, right? That's a call to action. Hey, wake up, Brian Childers. Hey, hey, Dan the Mandour. Hey, Memory Gardens. Memory, you get a pass. I know for a fact you're biddling something. If you are listening to this and you are like, all right, that all sounds well and good, maybe I would even consider myself interested in biddling something, but I don't know none of this Web3 stuff. I'd be surprised if you're listening to this and you don't know none of this Web3 stuff. But if you play it small, if you're doubting yourself and you're in that, no, let's be honest. I would love to have a few more skills under my, a few more tools in my tool belt before I dive in. Well, boy, do I have the announcement for you. Literally last night, the announcement went out for the first time for something we've been planning behind the scenes called Camp Biddle. Which is basically a boot camp. It's during Biddle Week and the core event. In other words, the same days as ETH Denver, February 24th to March 5th. And the idea is the first 6 days, you get together with folks like Vitalik and Iwaki and Patrick Collins and have this curated 6-day experience where we have like different tracks. Each has a dean. You could specialize in smart contracts, front end, marketing and community, or design. And the reason we chose these tracks is we want to help people go from I don't really know what to do at a Biddle-a-thon to 6 days later being able to walk into the main event, head held high, and say, hey, I'm a smart contract dev. Who's looking for a team? Or like, hey, I'm a designer. Who needs a Figma click model? Something you'll learn how to do at that program even if you have no design experience. So if you know anyone that might benefit from that, if you have a friend or yourself that's thinking of attending ETH Denver anyway, or maybe this would be the thing that pushes them over the edge and can commit to doing all 10 days of this and submitting a project with our support, our loving push over the cliff so they can fall down the rabbit hole, as it were.
They can fly.
They fall. Yeah, great inspiring speech where you push someone off a cliff and they fall.
It doesn't take much.
It does not. I highly encourage folks to check out that website. I put it down at the bottom, ethdenver.com/campbiddle, all one word. Don't forget to spell biddle wrong. And then earlier, Russell, you'd mentioned if folks are thinking about pitching their project, for example, Memory here, and they want to learn more about how they can do that, what do they need to know about that opportunity again?
So basically, it means you're not a part of the hackathon, right? So if you already have a startup, you're there to learn, you're there, but you want to be able to pitch your existing startup to Bufficorn Ventures to become a portfolio company, then you can apply to do the Buffy Tank on Saturday. I think it's the 4th. During ETH Denver, and so you can apply there. And if you aren't able to pitch or anything, you can use that as an application as well. It's almost the same form, but that will get you on track to see if you can become one of the companies pitching.
Memory Gardens, are you going to fill that out? Because Memory Gardens is working on something called Memory Gardens, which I had a chance to look at also. Probably you could do both. Memory is asking whether they can pitch a project they've started before in this context, this Buffy tank, and submit something at ETH Denver and have that considered. Absolutely, you're
Yeah,
ambitious. Get in there, champ. Slap on the butt, like for sure.
yeah.
We want all the bidling. That's the goal here. Well, I'm cognizant of the time. Russell, thank you so much for taking a moment to explain how Bufficorn Ventures works, the story of how we got here today, the kinds of projects that we're working on supporting right now, where they're at, and how the community is relevant to this weird experimental positive sum thing we're trying out in real time. So folks, if you're interested in learning more, ethdenver.com, sporkdow.org. We would love to have you join us. Discord.gg/sporkdow. Go try out Tavern Keeper. Go try it out right now.
Try it
Even
out.
if you're already a member of the server, there are lots of quests you can do. It's not just for that first come through the door experience. It's that and like a dozen other things. So go check it out, because you checking it out and giving them feedback is going to help them succeed. And you know what happens when they succeed? You know what happens to a rising tide? Lifts all boats.
Let's-
So with that, thank you so much, Russell. I appreciate you joining me today.
Thank you, Derek. Always a pleasure. And thanks
right.
everybody for paying attention.
Bye.
Bye.